Welcome back to the Mid-Year Mitch YouTube channel. In today's episode, I'm talking about a 66 Corvette project car that you have the opportunity to buy, and we're going to talk about what the car needs and why I think you should buy it, so be sure to stick around. So behind me is not the 66 Corvette in question. This is a 67 Roadster that I've been working on in the past few weeks, but it's a very similar car to what I'm going to be showing you on Facebook Marketplace. So this car is a few hours away from me. I don't have time to get out, but this car is in a very similar condition, so we can compare this car to the one in question and we can make some observations there, and I'll use this one as my test dummy for this video. But first, let's start off by talking about the overall description, condition of the car, going through the pictures, and seeing what, overall what we think about the car. Then let's go into what work the car needs to get it to the next steps. All right, so now let's dig into the ad here. So if we go on the Facebook Marketplace here, we see the 66 Corvette is offered to you by Mike Walsh, and he is at the Early Vet Shop. So I bought some stuff from him. Actually, I bought these doors that are on this convertible. I bought several doors. So first off, you can see we have a pretty decent firewall back on a chassis. So we'll just quickly skim through these pictures here. And I think this is going to be for me, this is a pretty nice car. So 66 Roadster was at 15, now it's at 11. Okay, let's go down here into the description here. So this is a 66 Roadster that was wrecked sometime in the 60s and 70s, left outside. Don't like the left outside part. I did see this car for sale, and I did see it had banged up quarter panels, so it has the tags. It was trophy blue on blue, which trophy blue, if you don't know, is a very pretty color. So this car was definitely a really nice car. It's on a frame, but it's junk except for the suspension part, so it's a good, basically a cart. Appears to be an automatic based on the pedals. Doesn't have drivetrain. The bird cage at the top of the dash is rotted, so that's something we'll look at on our convertible here. That's going to need to be addressed. The original quarters were replaced with new ones, which is the same ones that I have on the 67 behind me. Soft top frame is not included. It's just shown for demonstration purposes, basically. He can supply more parts. Mike has a lot of C1 and C2 and some C3 parts, so he's a good guy for parts. So it's nice that he can kind of mix and match parts. His phone number's up here, and then he said he can, what else? He can mix and match other parts, and the car will have an original steering column, wiper grills, heater box, rear bumper cores, and an empty hardtop shell. So that means it probably doesn't have glass, or it doesn't have the plastic window or the trim is what I'm guessing, but I'm not sure. There's no pictures of that. Looking at the pictures, we can see here that the car, you can see a little bit of the blue paint. It has a front end somewhat on it. It was smashed off. The doors look like they're in nice shape. We do have windshield trim and vent windows, which is nice to have. Those are important pieces. And you can see we have new Vetmaster quarter panels on here, which I have on this car behind me, which those look like they're done pretty well. Over here, we can see the firewall's pretty well cleaned off. Not a lot of parts on it, but it is pretty decent. There's a couple little crack or a hole right there. Get out here, fly, beat it. No wiper grills, a wiper transmission, wiper motor. There's one wiper transmission on that side. Steering box in the frame. You can't really see if the windshield frame is rotten there. We have a dash, some heater controls, dash pads, wiper grill. Might be the e-brake handle laying here, some wiring. There's some stuff in here that is of value. We've got another side of the quarter panel. It looks like they fit up pretty nice with the door in the car, and Mike already did the body work between the quarter panel and the rear deck and the taillight panel, so that's a lot of work. Mike's done a lot of work on Corvettes, so I trust his work. So you're off to a good start there if you're interested in this car. Another angle there, and in the back you can see, I'm assuming this is the original taillight panel because it didn't say, but I'm not sure, and it looks like it's body worked in place. Okay, so that's basically the car. So I say now let's compare what we have there to what we have here, and let's go from there. So now looking at this car, you can see these are the quarter panels that Mike has on that 66, and he body worked his where mine are just freshly glued on. You can still see all the glue smeared on here, but these are nice press molded quarter panels. The nice thing about buying a car in this condition is you can tell that it's a good car. You don't have to feel around the quarter panels because you know they're brand new. There's nothing hiding underneath the paint, just like Mike's car, is you're getting a good firewall back. The body is all good. It's very important when you're looking at a car, especially one that had quarter panels put on it. These are not an easy part to put on because the bottom of the door has a curve. You have to match that curve up. You have to match this flat up. this body line, this flat, and then the door has to be adjusted right so this all lines up and the deck lid lines up. So there's a lot of stuff in this little area to get right. Also, you want to make sure the wheel lip is the same height side to side. It's all flush here, and this body line matches up and the bumpers fit good. So I know Mike has done a lot of these, so I wouldn't be concerned. But if you're looking at a car that had quarter panels put on it, just check all those gaps to make sure everything seems to be within, you know, a fairly decent factory tolerance. Now, Mike's car has complete doors, which is always nice to have. And the biggest concern that I would have on that car is the windshield frame. So he put on new quarter panels. I assume when he put new quarter panels on, he checked the back of the bird cage. As soon as someone says rust, the first thing I think of, how's the bird cage? If the frame's rusty, which that might not have been the original frame, is the bird cage rusty? So if we look down here, yeah, if you look in here, you can see the bird cage in here because I didn't put the splash shield in here yet. But if you remove that little rectangular plate that goes in this area, you can get access to in here, and you can see the rear body mount. And that's typically an area you want to check to make sure that it's not rusty. This area here typically rusts out, and where the bolt hole is, that typically gets rusty. So if you're looking at a car and you're unsure of the bird cage, and if you can ask the guy to pull that cover, or if it's already missing, look in there and see if it's rusty. Also, check the doors, make sure they open and close well, because if they don't open and close well, that could be an indication that the bird cage is rusty. But it's also on a frame that's rusty, so a lot of times a good bird cage can be affected by a bad frame. That has happened in the past. So I would check the lower stuff. Like I said, he put new quarters on it. I assume he would have addressed anything that was under there before he covered it up. So when we look at the windshield frame, they typically would rust in two different areas, either the top up or the top down. So this one must not have been by the coast because the top of this is really nice and smooth, really good looking metal. We're down here, it's a little more pitted, so we can assume this car was not by the coast. Things typically rust from the bottom up in this neck of the woods. Mike's car had a little bit of rust in this area, which when this would have a front end on it, there would be fiberglass the whole way across here. So all you could see is this area in here. So if I was looking at this car, I would look in this area. I would also look at the little pinch weld right here and the bottom of this cap under here, which if there's a dash in the car like there is on Mike's, you can crawl under here and look, and you can get an idea, is there something bad happening here? Mike's car has fiberglass covering this area, so you can't get an idea what it looks like, but you're gonna put a front end on that car, so you're gonna remove all that. When you remove that, you expose this area, and this likes to rust. This one's pitted, but it's not too far gone. You know, that these pits don't bother me. But if they get a lot worse, you'll get holes here, you'll get holes here, this cap will rust out. There's a lot of metal that laps. So this can be an area of concern. So whenever he said it has some little pinholes or some rust in the frame, that's something that I would ask to see pictures on before I went and looked at it. And it may be something minor, you just put some welds in it and grind it and it's fine. It may be something that you have to remove part of the firewall, put a patch in, and it's fine. Or it could be something you remove the whole, whatever's left of the front end, you remove the front end, you analyze the damage, you pull the firewall off, you pull the bonding strips off, which I've done in some videos, and my friend Don just did that on a split window, and then you may have to replace the whole cross member or sections of the corners, you know, whatever you get into. Windshield frame rust on that car isn't concerning because the front end that's on it is junk. If it had a really nice front end on it that I didn't want to hurt the body, I'd be a little more weary about it. As soon as I bought the car, the first thing I would do is rip the front end off, see what we're working with, and then you can really determine how much work is ahead of you. But like I said, you can do some looking from the underside. Mike's a good guy. I wouldn't expect him to be hiding something, but at the same time, he also probably doesn't know what it looks like because all that stuff is covered up. So that's something that I would be a little, you know, I don't want to say concerned, but I'm just going to be a little suspicious of it until it's proven otherwise. But if you get lucky and the bird cage and the windshield area, the pillars and everything is in nice shape, you've got yourself a good firewall back body. So personally, guys, I like this car. I think it's a pretty good value because I build these cars. I know what it takes to get them to that point, especially whenever they're all wrecked up, wadded up, rusted out pieces of junk. I know what it takes to get there, and I know what they can bring. So I don't understand why it hasn't sold yet. I think it's a pretty good car. And there are a lot of people that laugh at that and say, well, I could buy a running one for $20,000, $30,000. Maybe you could, but I'm guessing they haven't checked Facebook Marketplace or eBay or any of the sales things recently. They still think it's 1976 or something. So, you know, that's fine. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but the times have changed. So over the past few years, two different markets have emerged: the restored car market and the resto mod car market. And they both have different top values in terms of what they sell for at auction, but they also have different entry-level points, which doesn't make sense at first, but whenever you really think about it, it does. A resto mod guy, in general, doesn't want to pay for a car that's perfectly restored and tear it apart. Some guys do, which breaks my heart. But most of the guys want to start with something like this, and they're okay paying extra money for it because they know it has quarter panels put on it. They know it has a good taillight panel. They know it has good doors, and it doesn't have all the parts that they don't need. When they buy a car like this, it has everything they need, and the parts that they want, they can go buy it, and they know they're getting good quality. Versus if you buy a car, say a $40,000 driver, and someone might say, why don't you just resto mod that? It's got all the parts you need. But when you get down to it, the front end might be junk. The rockers could be rusty in the bird cage. The quarter panels could be bumped. It could have an inch thick of body filler somewhere. You know, there's all kinds of different scenarios that you can play out. So a lot of guys typically want to buy a car in this state because they can see what it looks like and they know that they can put their money in, they know what they can get out of it. It's less risk, if you will. But a guy restoring a car might look at that car and be like, there's nothing there. I'm never going to be able to finish that car, which that's one approach. But if you really want to finish it, you will finish it. And I put them together that way. My split window was in a million pieces, and that car is fully restored, and it's beautiful now. And it has all the specific 63 correct pieces that I had to search and painstakingly find. So it's possible to do. You just have to commit to it and be willing to do it. That's not everybody's approach. Now for this 60, this is a 67. I'm going to start pointing at this car like it's the 66. For this 66, there's two different ways you could go, in my opinion. There's completely original or there's resto mod. I don't think 100% original is good for that car because it doesn't have the original engine, transmission, and the chassis is rotten, and it might not even be the original chassis. So that's pretty much gone. But you could stray away from that just a little bit and make it look original. It doesn't have to have the original engine, but there are plenty of guys building resto mods. I would say that chassis is probably not worth fixing. So what I would look for is a takeoff chassis from a resto mod project. There are tons of guys taking nice drivers or restored cars, pulling the body off, and selling the whole chassis, engine, transmission, rear end, exhaust, gas tank. Sometimes they even have the battery and some wiring on them. Maybe even they have bumpers, bumper brackets, all the stuff they don't need. They pretty much just drape on it, and they want to get it out of their shop because it takes up space. If you buy a whole kit and caboodle, maybe you can spend 10, 15 grand. Boom. Mechanical side of the car, done. All you do is plop your body on top, you're ready to go. That's one direction. The other direction will be resto mod, whether that's a C4, C5, C6, C7, or C, you know, I don't think anybody's using C8 suspension, but you know, you pick your poison of what suspension you want. Personally, I don't really like the C4 chassis. I think they're kind of as stiff as a paperclip. And there's some other guys out there. Sure, you can weld a chassis together, but is it really strong? Is it better than the original one? I'm going to say no. There's a lot of chassis out there that I believe are worse than the original chassis. Just because it looks shiny and it's made out of box tubing doesn't mean it's great. I would go with something really nice if your budget can afford it. But if not, there's other options out there. It depends what kind of machine you want to build. But I think that 66 lends itself to any of those directions, whether it's restored or a resto mod. It has all the parts you want inside, and it's ready to go. In terms of fiberglass, you're going to need a new front end on that car. I made a video a couple weeks ago. Make sure you check that one out. I compared hand-laid fiberglass and press-molded fiberglass, which is better for what type of car, restored, resto mod, and what is better for your budget and just your vision of the car. So check that out. I think once you figure out fiberglass, you're in good shape. You just have to strip some paint on the deck lid and maybe a little on the doors. And you're ready to go to the body shop. And then from there, interior and everything else. There's plenty of videos out there. There's plenty of instructions. And I think you guys can do it if you're mechanically inclined. If not, watch some videos, figure it out, talk to a friend, pay a buddy. You can get the car done. Overall, just to sum it up, I think this is a good project. I think it's priced fairly. I think it has a good amount of parts to do whatever you want with it. I think the body's in good condition. I'm not that concerned about the rust. Front ends are readily available. You can get those. Mike has a lot of parts, so if you're dealing with him, maybe he has some headlights, a front end, hood. You know, he probably has parts that you might need to complete this car and get it going. I think you're going to be okay either way. I would start, if you're interested in the car, I would start trying to find a good chassis. Like I said, the kind of takeoff chassis, if that's the direction you want to go. And you can have yourself a pretty nice project fairly affordably. You know, you're not going to be getting yourself a $30,000 driver, but at the same time, if you go through the whole car, you know you have a good frame, good engine, transmission, you know you have a good body, you know you have a good platform. And when you paint on top of that, you know nothing bad's going to happen. But if you buy a car that's, say, in the $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 range, you don't know what you're getting because that car could have been painted 10, 20, 30 years ago. So, you know, that's up to you guys for whatever you choose to do. I think it's a good project, so let me know what you guys think. If you end up buying this car, please put a comment down below if you're watching this video now. I'd love to hear who bought it, where it went, and what you plan on doing with the car. Also, it'd be cool to keep in touch with you to see if you do buy it, you know, what you end up doing with it, what it looks like, and hopefully you keep it trophy blue because I like that color. So if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. And I have a lot of work to do on this 67 Roadster, so I'm going to catch you guys later.